It's time for Market Explainer, your number one business news podcast. Hosted by Danny and the big man. And it starts right now.
This is so exciting. Elon Musk has now joined the board of Twitter because he has purchased roughly 9.2% of the business, making him the largest single shareholder of Twitter. The second largest, I think, was Vanguard, and Vanguard, with far less shares, I think 4%, were the ones who we believe, anyhow, were able to push out the CEO. So if that's what they were able to do with 4%, what's he going to do with 10?
Okay,
Is
go
Danny
ahead.
going to get? Is Danny going to get his banned Twitter account back? Methinks so.
No, you're never
Yeah.
getting that back. Look, you have here, this is what I find hilarious about this story, and I said this before we started recording, and now I'm going to say it on the record, is that eventually Elon Musk is going to end up in jail, right, from the SEC, right? I mean, and Danny's, of course, retort to that was if the CEO of BlackRock goes as well, and I'm fine with that too. The
Yeah.
point here's the point: Elon Musk has already been in trouble a couple of times now because of saying things on Twitter about affecting his stock price of different companies, his own company, right? There was the whole debacle, I think, 2 quarters ago about him letting out on Twitter what was private, what will be public remarks on their finances of Tesla and stuff like that. And
Well,
so he's already been warned by the SEC multiple times using
right.
his Twitter account.
And him and his brother were just probed by the SEC because for insider trading.
Right.
Um,
So he has been bashing publicly Twitter for a
yes,
while now.
on
And
Twitter,
on Twitter, bashing Twitter.
which
Then
is
over the
hilarious.
series of the last couple of months comes up with these two polls that they're talking about in the story, and then all of a sudden he lets them know, not hey, 2 weeks ago, hey, I'm gonna be buying Twitter. He lets
Right,
everybody knows when he's forced to disclose it to everyone
right.
that I just bought 9.2%. So he's been driving down the price of Twitter stock for months. For months. Just to then
Well,
buy it and turn around and, oh, by the way, buy it for $3 billion, which he could buy the entire company of Twitter and not affect any of his real,
correct.
right? But buys
Which,
it at a discount and then almost doubles his money in a couple of days.
listen, there's something about an African immigrant coming to this country and getting so wealthy that he buys what many view as America's public square, Twitter, and then making it better. Okay. Now, here's
He's made
why.
nothing better, by the way. First of all, he might.
Not
He'll get
yet.
in
We don't
there,
know. We don't
but
know.
he might. We don't know. Go ahead.
No. So there's some people saying, like, hey, if you look at how much money Twitter's made, like he has invested to buy this percentage more than Twitter has ever made in profits ever.
Well, they almost
Right.
went bankrupt a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Several
Because they
times.
couldn't
Yeah.
figure out how to monetize what they had created. Twitter, look, there's a lot of people out there that find that believe that Twitter is the perfect social media platform because they don't allow all the Facebook stuff, they don't allow all the, you know what I mean? It is
Well,
literally just you have this finite amount of text-based communication that
right.
goes out worldwide
Correct.
constantly, right?
Yeah, but as someone who has been banned, I mean, listen, I have accounts, I aged my accounts. So I have accounts dating back to 2010, and I have plenty of them. And I have them all logged in on VPNs. So, hey, Twitter, you can keep banning me, but I'm just going to keep coming back, baby.
Come at me, bro. Come at me.
But what I'm saying is, he, there's also this other thing of like, hey, if you're on conservative Twitter, which is really a different algorithm of Twitter, if you follow a lot of those people, which I may or may not do, I don't agree with them politically, but um, there has been this call like Elon buy Twitter, fix the internet for us. And I kind of understand where they're coming from of like, hey, it'd be nice to have somebody represent some other idea, which which is interesting is now unconfirmed. More than one engineer at Twitter said, hey, I do terms and conditions, and if he's going to make it more quote unquote free speech oriented, I quit my job. Hilarious. That to me is he's cleaning it up. Now, what you getting back to what you're saying though about it, like he's going to go to jail for all these SEC violations. Um, no one who did any of the banking nonsense from 2008 went to jail for anything. So
Spoken
I'm
like
a
a
cat.
Republican. Spoken like a Republican.
I'm not, hold on. I'm not a
Anyway,
Republican. Don't even
look,
accuse me of being one of those things. That's horrifying. That's horrifying.
don't justify one thing by saying something completely unrelated, and I won't call you that.
Well,
So
that's fine.
here's the.
But
Go ahead.
that's fair. But I'm just saying, I so the problem is I don't view anything as he has done as being moral, incorrect. Maybe it's unlawful, but the point is what law is
You don't
written.
find him now. Again, I don't know that the reason that he bashed Twitter for months on end on Twitter was to drive down their stock price to buy. I can't prove that. I don't know that. What I'm saying though is if he did do that, to me that is an SEC violation, and that he should suffer ramifications for that. Now
Well,
again, I
so
don't want to be a bashing Elon Musk.
right, right,
I
right.
have a lot of respect for Elon Musk. I really
Got to.
enjoy a lot of the way his brain works, completely alien, different
Correct.
than everybody else's. So
Well,
it's not
because he's
about
not from
that.
this planet. He's a Martian.
And good. If he is Martian, great. My point though
Yeah.
is if we all to a certain extent have to live within certain guidelines, the box. We can try to change the box. We can change the box sometimes. There are ways to do that. But while the rules are the rules, 99.9% of us should be able to live within the boundaries of those rules. It's what allows us to function. Everybody stop at a
Correct.
stop sign. Everybody, you know what I mean? Waits in line to buy your groceries. Whatever. We all suffer from the social construct. So if the SEC says that driving down the price of a stock when you have leverage is wrong and Elon Musk committed that, then he's wrong and should suffer those consequences.
So I'm saying he is perhaps he is thinking, how do I use my wealth to do social good? And well, here's the thing, like that is
When
going to
that
be
comes out of your mouth, Danny, you anybody that's been watching the show for any length of time, so that when those words came out of Danny's mouth, he didn't believe a single word of them.
that is
Danny does
unfair.
not believe that anyone should spend their money on making the world a better place.
Well, here's the no, that's not true. I think that capitalistic activity is what makes the world a better place. Seeking profit, making profits is what makes the world a better place. So when people, here's what I'm saying, when people say, we use Mackenzie Bezos as an example, right? She gave her money to organizations, like billions of dollars. It's not even, let's be honest, it's Jeff's money, right?
Right.
She gave Jeff's money to a bunch of nonprofits, and she's still gonna have like $1 billion when it's all over. So, but she thinks she's gonna go out there and do good. And here's the problem. I think the reality is Amazon has done more to make my life better than that lady giving billions of dollars to these random organizations
Right.
where, and
Individual
most,
charities that does God knows what.
here's the
Yeah.
reality. Most of these charities that these billionaires are giving money to are tax avoidance schemes. Now, I think taxes are criminal. I think taking people's earnings because they earn it, just because they have a pulse and they made a few dollars, and you get to take it, that's a human rights violation in my view. But that's just me. But I'm saying if I look at the practical thing that Amazon has done to make my life better, it's undeniable that Amazon has made my life measurably better. Hey, you and I are big guys, right? You know
Mm-hmm.
how hard it is to go find a pair of, dude, Amazon partnered with DXL and designed jeans
Sure.
that, listen, I used to go buy jeans and then I had to, $60 on the jeans, then another 50 to get them tailored.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put them on once, I take them off and I put them in a dumpster because they always
Right.
suck. Now Amazon came along and made the jean that fit a big guy the best. Yes,
Right.
it's true. When I put my waist size into the Amazon search bar, the first thing that pops up is shower curtain. So that does hurt my feelings. It's a little fat phobic, just a bit.
They're working on the algorithm there. They're working on that.
But if I look practically and I say, well, Amazon, so and Twitter has, interestingly, my account that got banned for my brand Defederate had 20,000 followers. So I'm just saying that I believe that capitalistic activity and profit seeking are higher order activities that make the world a better place. And so when Elon Musk is investing into Twitter, I actually believe and here's the other thing. If he's not doing it to make the world a better place, he's doing it for the meme. And that actually makes the world a better place. Okay.
Look, here's why he
So
did this. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your
no,
thought.
no, I was going to just say one thing. The big man has often said that, we have these dialogues, off air where he said, it really irritates me. He said this before, and I think you've maybe changed your mind. You'll speak to that. But that when I say value is subjective, that that kind of drives you nuts sometimes because you're like, it shouldn't like, but here's the reality, right? Is that meme magic is what made me understand. And this is something I've been a free market guy for so long. I've
Right.
always said the first lesson of free markets is that value is subjective because I can't place a value on something for someone else. I can't say, hey, having a pair of jeans that fit is worth it to you for this amount of correct. That's up to the individual. So that's why I always say the first lesson of free market economics is that value is highly subjective. And the thing that really drove the point home to me was watching people make fortunes on meme stocks and other things, right? That
Hmm.
only happened in the last year where I really understood something that I've been believing for a long time. And the reality that a guy who made all of his money off of a stock that is pumped to the moon, that makes that all of his net worth comes from Tesla stock, and he goes on an app which he claims isn't good, Twitter, and he uses that to make Twitter polls, and then just does what the Twitter poll says. Is that not democracy? I don't even
Well,
like democracy, but that's hilarious.
he has not done anything yet except for buy a big chunk of the company and then force them to make him part of the board. So those are the only things he's had time to do, by the way. So now he did look a couple of things here. Okay, I don't know Elon Musk's intentions. I do know, however, the man has spent a crap ton of money to figure out that starting your own social media company is not worth the money. He's figured that out.
Right.
He's
You think
done.
so?
It's in this and several other articles. He literally talks about I hired people to tell me because that's what he wanted to do what Gary Vee and Donald Trump and everybody else wants to do, start their own social media empire so that they can make the rules, right?
Right.
That's what they all want to do. That's their all first thought is somebody as narcissistic as Elon Musk, and I'm not even saying that in a negative way. I'm saying that's just the way most people that have his type of brain are, right?
Fair enough.
He is the kind of person that believes that he could start, create, and have a social media network that he gained all the rules for. But
Yeah.
he's also smart enough to know to not let his ego get ahead of him and spend the dollars up front to have some people that are specialists tell him, "Hey, this is not a good idea." It's hard to get a social media platform off the ground. It's hard
Right.
to get billions of people signed up to do it when it's much cheaper and much easier to go buy a successful social media platform.
Right. And I think we learned, like, we all watched the former president of the United States launch a social media platform to complete failure.
Yes.
We watched some of his, I think his right hand man start Getter. It was garbage. So all of these different, you know, uh,
It's not
upstart.
easy. It's not
No.
easy to get to a Twitter, a Facebook, LinkedIn.
So it's so I'll relate it to electric cars and say, hey, we at Market Explainer, and I'll speak for myself, but I think Big Man also says we don't think a lot of these electric startups are going to survive. But the reality is that, hey, Ford and General Motors and Stellantis, which owns Chrysler,
Mhm.
all of these companies are sitting by with their stupid amounts of money and all of their manufacturing processes going, okay, which one of you is going to fail big enough, but have enough technology that we're going to swoop in and, your investors lost billions of dollars and all this other stuff. And we're just going to get to buy up the scraps. So
Mhm.
I do think what he is thinking here is if he can just make the thing where everybody is work the way he wants it, rather than going and making it. And also when I think of things like the metaverse and how the implications of that, I think that making your own Twitter is a poor use of money today. because if he just invested that same few $1 billion into metaverse, he could compete with, you know, Mark Zuckerberg. And
Well, look, Tesla investors are not a big fan of this move. They don't want Elon Musk on that brain thinking about anything else but
other
SpaceX,
than
right?
and
Tesla,
and
the
yeah, and
Cybertruck,
other
and everything else. So they don't they're not big fans of this, right? As far as they've been outspoken at this point, going, we're gonna have to see what he actually is doing on a weekly, daily, whatever basis, but not a big fan of losing his attention, right? The other part of this, look, the two questions that he's asked of Twitter, the two polls that are being used over and over. The first one came out: should the Twitter algorithm be open source? 1.2 million people voted. 82.7 said yes. We should know basically how the algorithm works with our data, with our information. I think you're going to
right.
see more and more of those questions come up. We've talked about that previously. I actually ultimately think that that's going to be something that the government rolls out with. It's not going to be something that businesses
No.
do, but it's something that the government,
The,
because
the,
most
the,
people are not going to want you to know what they
yeah,
do with your information. They're just not going to
and
want to do it.
and the government doesn't also want everybody to know, because then everyone's going to find out, hey, why does this agency called Kaya? Why do they have why do they have a back door into everybody's data?
Yeah, into everybody's Twitter account.
CIA?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, and then the second one was,
Why,
does
why,
Twitter
why
follow?
do why do
Go ahead.
all of these verified accounts log in from Langley, Virginia? What's that?
That's right. The second one was, does Twitter follow quote unquote free speech rules? 2 million people, 2 million people voted. 70%, just over 71%, said no, it does not follow free speech. Now, and we all have seen Elon Musk tweets, and Elon Musk tweets, he definitely falls on the side that we're of not as free speech is going on in Twitter as he feels like should be available. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's reached the amount of wealth that he's like, hey, I see something I don't like, I want to change it. Now, if you are a conspiracy theorist, and I love people out there like Danny that are, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you and I did a story. I don't know whether it was Market Explainer or old program,
Right,
where we talked about the Washington Post being owned by Jeff Bezos and some
correct.
political issues that they ran into about, well,
Right,
if Jeff Bezos is not a fan of X and Y politician, what
right.
keeps Jeff Bezos from calling up a company that he owns and going, hey, I want you to I want you to find something to talk bad about ABC politician. What keeps Jeff Bezos from doing that? Right now, nothing.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now, if Elon Musk owns a majority stake in Twitter, can he
Right.
now, Elon Musk owns Twitter, Jeff Bezos owns Washington Post. You get what I'm going here, right down the
Yeah.
conspiracy path of the more and more these trillionaires own more and more
They're
of
not
where we get our
trillionaires, but okay.
information.
Right. But here's the thing. We're talking about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos versus BlackRock and Vanguard, which, BlackRock and Vanguard own so much of the universe. You'd be
Yeah, of the
flabbergasted.
universe. Like
Yeah. And
you wouldn't understand, because when we talk about ownership, we're talking about stocks, right? Investors,
yeah,
heavy investors in, and they own big chunks of the biggest companies in the world.
correct. And the CEO of BlackRock is running around saying a lot of wacky stuff, and he owns. And hey, guess what? Unlike Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, that any of us have any awareness of, we know for a fact that BlackRock CEO can just pick up the phone and call the Federal Reserve. So, you
Well,
know,
there's a term that Elon Musk has used several times, and I've seen other politicians use this to Twitter as well. And you said it earlier. Earlier, it's de facto public town square. And the reason is, it's not quite a legal term, but in the political resources, a town square is seen as, or should be, a place of 100% free speech. Goes all the way
correct.
back, way before the internet, when we all used
Yes.
to get together in the middle of town, whether it was shaped like a square or not, it didn't matter. You got together
Right.
in the middle of town. There was a person that got up there and spoke and talked about all the local what was going on
Right.
and all this kind of stuff, and you were able to say and communicate and ask questions as freely as
Yeah.
you wanted to be.
And that's why I'm currently recording this in a public library. And there is someone 10 feet away from me right now that is looking at an adult website while there is a child, because they
Two
legally
computers
cannot.
down. You
Yeah,
know?
when there is a child 4 computers down trying to like research something because he's homeschooled, and they legally cannot prevent him from not looking at adult content. Okay, and I got a lot of questions about that kind of mentality, but I think we've kind of killed this story to death, if you would say so. So I think we're going to move on
Absolutely.
to the
Well,
next
we'll
one.
keep an eye on it to see.
Yes,
I will be curious to see what he actually wants to do and
yes,
how far he's able to take it, because we all know that you can go in with good intentions sometimes,
right,
but it's easy to have good intentions if you don't know the weight of how things work.
right. And so I also want to see if a certain public competitor that were made public via SPAC, which is now a failing website, if they want to take some of that capital and and also buy up a couple of board seats.
I just don't know that Twitter can become this quote unquote free speech place that people want it to be. I just don't think it
It
can.
was.
And
Listen, it was for, but you know what's interesting, and I'll say this in closing. The reason I have stacked up a decades old Twitter accounts in the multiples is because I foresaw a scenario in which they banned me from the platform and I refuse to go down without a fight. So that's why I
Danny
have
should
some.
definitely be able to spout his conspiracy theories, his things that he has no way of knowing how to accomplish those goals, but
That
still that
sounds
they should be goals in the first place.
correct. And I was banned because I made fun of a Indian person. Okay, and I basically said he wasn't funny, even though he calls himself a comedian.
You're
And
not allowed to be, Danny, mean to anyone.
well, that's a human right. Hate is a human right. That is endorsed by Market Explainer and the Big Man. We're going to move on to our next segment, but before that, I want to let you know that our show, Market Explainer, is brought to you by our Patreon. You can catch the exclusive full-length videos at patreon.com/Market Explainer and other exclusives that we'll have as the show continues to grow.